Hello, everyone, and welcome. We're so excited to have you here today. My name is Isabel Hendricks. I'm Content Marketing Manager for Opkey, and I'm going to kick us off today. We're going to allow people a few minutes to jump on. We welcome you wherever you're joining us from today. We'd like to thank Dennis and Shawneen for their help in coordinating today. It's so wonderful to work with Oracle and be able to put on these informative events. So a little bit about who we are and what we will be discussing today. We are Opkey. We are an official Oracle partner, and we are an AI-enabled no-code end-to-end test automation platform with a specific emphasis in Oracle testing, both for Oracle Cloud and Oracle EBS. And today we're so excited to share some more detailed information about exactly what we're capable of bringing to Oracle Cloud customers, specifically HCM customers. And we found the best way to do this is to talk to real customers, to focus on real projects, to really, see how this tool, not only what we say it does, but what it actually does in real time and in the real world. So today we'll be talking about what Opkey is currently doing. This is still a current customer of ours for Rochester City School District, a large school district in the state of New York, in the US. We are joined by Dimpy, who is our own VP of Product Solutions and has thousands of these types of projects under her belt. One of the most insightful and informative people I've ever met to talk about Oracle Cloud testing with. So we're so honored to welcome her today. And we're also very excited and grateful that Vivek has joined us, who works for our CSD and is in a leadership position of really helping Opkey help him succeed. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Dimpy in a moment. As you've heard, feel free to pop any questions you have in the bottom function of your Zoom. We will get to them. And then there will also be a question and answer session as well as a demo at the end. So once again, thank you for being here. We're so excited to teach you a little more about our product and what it can do for you. And I'll go ahead and pass it over to Dimpy.
Thank you very much, Isabel. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining in today. I think before I start, thank you, Oracle, for organizing this. This is lovely, and as always, very lovely to kind of host these events, customer events for our customers and prospects and people that use the product and are part of the ERP industry and share our thoughts and our experiences with all of them. And not the least, Vivek Chakravarti, thank you so much for joining us. He has been our champion all through, and he's been part of the reason that we are part of the city school industry at the moment, and we are working with Rochester City School District at this point, serving them for their ERP implementation, testing, and automation. And we are extremely privileged to have him today with us.
Thank you.
With that, the reason why all of us are here, we wanted to talk about together as Opkey and Rochester team, what and present in front of you a customer case study of how we started with, what we discussed with the customer, how the platform got introduced in the overall mix, how we intend and how we started to and how we intend to help them in their entire testing and implementation journey. Rochester City School District is currently using Opkey to streamline their Oracle Cloud implementation. So they are currently implementing, most of it is implemented, but that's happening in like staggered fashion for their different phases of HCM and ERP and different other modules across the entire bed. They're using it for different cycles. It's PP3B, SIT, and UAT. And specifically, the RCSD team intends to make sure that the entire libraries that Opkey comes with, the pre-packaged libraries across these ERP modules, get implemented to our RCSD's Oracle instance so that their testing is immediately automated and they have like less and less amount of effort that goes into for their businesses. And that is exactly what we intend to do with our solutions. We're going to obviously go in depth with what are the solutions that we present across the industry for our users. But really, the overall idea is to use the AI-powered solutions that are there and make technology at the center of everything to make sure that the prospects and our customer leverages these test scripts automated and make less and less effort to kind of get that implemented for their Oracle instance. With that, I'm going to talk about what is going to be the agenda for today. So in depth, we are going to talk about the overall overview and need of Rochester City Council, how we get engaged, how the overall platform is getting implemented, while it is, what are the different implementation challenges, the test implementation challenges that we early on saw, and how the solution is now helping them go through this test implementation as we go. Plus, we are also going to look at the solutions and in-depth solution in a form of a demonstration for you guys, so you can just actually connect with the platform and how it actually works. And last but not the least, we definitely would like to together, myself and Vivek would like to answer any of your questions that you guys have for us today. All right. So Vivek, do you want to just talk about?
Yeah, sure. So we are a K-12 school district serving the urban part of Rochester, New York, in Monroe County. We service about 25,000 students. About 22 to 23 of them go to our own schools, and we also serve agency schools where we are accountable for those students. So roughly about 25,000 students pass through our gates on an everyday basis. We also support more than 50 schools and about 6,000 employees. As Dimpy was mentioning, we are in the midst of a Cloud Fusion business transformation program, and we are completely overhauling our PeopleSoft system, going into Cloud Fusion on ERP, EPM, and HCM, running 6 projects with EPM going live in a few months from now, and ERP and HCM going live next year. So this is for us a very key initiative for the superintendent, and I'm glad we're working with Opkey in an excellent partner to be able to lessen the burden of such a complex project that we have to get through the door by next year.
Lovely. With that, some of these goals that we had together as partners, we looked at that there were 2 different phases of this, and obviously Vivek, you can come in as I.
Yeah, let me quantify the left-hand side a little bit, just so that for context for the audience, right? I don't know how many of you in the audience are from a public sector, but in a typical public sector organization, especially K-12, our end customer is students. So business operations, I'm not saying is unimportant, but is slightly below our core competency, and we have 2 ERP systems. We have a student ERP and obviously an ERP that supports our HR financial operations, with payroll being one of the most business critical processes for us. And in our organization, from an organizational maturity standpoint, for us to be able to do such a heavy lift in terms of a business transformation of this nature, we don't have a PMO office and we don't have a quality assurance department. So we've had to construct a temporary PMO office just to support the implementation over the last 2 years, and it will be 3 years by the time we go live with this. And also, we couldn't. We really discussed in detail how would we develop an internal quality assurance department. What would that look like? We came from a legacy system of PeopleSoft where we were pretty dormant, which means we hadn't done a single upgrade release for 12 years before we started this business transformation journey. So we, from a modernization perspective, we were not as modern or as agile as an organization, just considering where we are in the K-12 sector, to be able to go on this journey from a quality assurance standpoint. And this is where I think Opkey provided a very valuable value proposition, right? In terms of, and we've compartmentalized this into 2 specific asks from our perspective, right? One was during implementation, right? As we went through the implementation, we started to realize that with the number of scenarios and nuances and 5 bargaining units and the complexity on the implementation, the number of scenarios and scripts started to unravel pretty quickly. We started with an estimate of about 300 to 400. We are right now pushing up against, just within HCM, close to about 1,400 test scenarios and probably around 1,200 test scripts. So that's a Herculean effort to build up a temporary team to just do manual testing on. So very quickly we realized that manual testing, even for the implementation, was not becoming an option for us. Now that's one part. The second piece is post go live. Like I said, in PeopleSoft, we had not done an upgrade for several years, and we had not even done incremental releases. So most of our releases in the last 12 years that I've been part of the district have been just incremental releases, patch fixes, tax updates, stuff of that nature. So we haven't really done anything of this magnitude. So post go live, as you know, SaaS, we have to do, you're almost mandated to do 4 quarterly releases, and then you have a bunch of monthly patches that come in, just like you would get in any other ERP system, right? So we were already kind of guarded against the fact that we'd have to go into this new world where our entire teams would have to be enabled to be able to regression test a whole bunch of this stuff as and when changes came through and the product, changed over time and got better for us. And these were the two, crucial asks of Opkey. Number one, to reduce our risk and level of effort in the implementation itself, so that we could use Opkey as a leverage to do regression testing for the manual test scripts that we had done in a previous process playback. Again, we're using the Oracle TCM Plus methodology to implement this project, which is a agile framework, right? Waterfall and agile combined, where we do testing in waves. And we are in the middle of a third wave, which is where Opkey started to integrate with us. And we're already seeing some of the benefits and the efficiencies of having something like Opkey in our toolbox to be able to de-risk, some of the pressure points in testing for us during testing. Now, on the post-go live side, obviously, for us, the goal for Opkey was to be able to, once we, of course, we're being supported by a systems integrator. We have a large contingent workforce that we've built up internally to be able to support the business transformation project. But once we go live, all of these supports are going to disappear, and we're going to be left back with our pretty skeleton crew in IT and, pretty small team that is stretched thin across HCM, finance, and budgeting, and even payroll. So we wanted something that could be sustainable in the longer run to reduce our QA overhead while not sacrificing data quality or any compliance related stuff that we have to adhere to. So that's kind of the goal and problem statement, and then I'll let Dimpy kind of expound on how Opkey came to the party there.
No, 100%, and very, very well put. And guys, I think this is where we come into picture, and this is where our expertise come into picture. Whenever there is a format, whereas in terms of Oracle cycles, where we have CRP cycles, PP3 cycles, SIT, UAT, then go live, then pre-prod testing, before you actually hit the go live, and then you go up to your patch releases and then BAU cycles. All of this requires significant amount of testing effort. And like Vivek very well said, business assurance at the center of it, right? In these large business transformation programs, this is the major things that nobody can put down. Something which is, how are we taking care of our risks while the implementation is going on? Because there's so much at stake while the implementation is going on, because anything goes wrong, you just have to just shut down all of that stuff and then redo most of those implementations, because there are multiple dev environments that are spin-off. There are multiple implementations that are happening across multiple geographies and multiple places where you're integrating multiple things cross-module, even if there is huge and the magnitude is pretty large. So what Opkey and where Opkey comes into picture is just align with Rochester goals. That is exactly what we did from day one. We just tried to align with the goals and where we fit in vis-a-vis their plan of overall implementation, which means now if they are in their PP3 cycle, what is the best solution from Opkey's perspective that can fit in? What is the best test suite that can fit in and make sure that the progression testing is happening right at the same time while the implementation is happening, so they can get immediate feedback across the implementation on multiple modules that they're implementing and they're going live with, so they can successfully go to the SIT cycles and forth. So that is exactly where we aligned with that. Some of the solutions that we integrated with these problems at different stages are aligning with how to construct the right test suite at the right time. Obviously, it starts with the different stories, different requirements that are happening in the implementation phase, right? It's very critical where we align all the requirements to all the test scripts, and everything sits at one particular place. So Opkey has an internal QLM and test management platform where you can store all of your test assets in one particular place, so it is linked. It just gives you bandwidth and that large long-term success at the end of everything, because once you have done these 4 cycles and you have completed the entire implementation and you come back and run multiple test runs and multiple test cycles, then the traceability will immediately help you to align with what was at stage 1, what is a stage 2 and stage 3 and so forth. So QLM is one thing where we started with. Now, as the implementation is happening across these major sub-modules, right? The HCM module or the performance module or benefits module, as we go through that in a functional testing and agile manner, we know that these functional tests have to be converted into test suites. Can we take businesses' time for that while they are completely swarmed into implementations? No. That's where the pre-packaged test accelerators come into picture, where we come with the library of tests already. We do our test mining on their dev environments and their test environment directly to come up with the test data set and relevant test data set and relevant test assets that can be relevant for that particular module. And that is exactly what we are doing at this point in this phase. And I think, Vivek, it's PP3A going on, right? Where we're working.
Yeah, we are in PP3B. Just to provide a little more context there, right? So we started 2 process playbacks, PP3A about 2 months ago. That was a 5-week test cycle for which we had started to stand up the manual testing platform in QLM, which means we worked with an Opkey team and a team that was allocated to us, working dedicatedly with our IT folks as well as some of our functional folks to translate all of the test scenarios that were manually written up with the test scripts that we were working with our systems integrator with, which is OCS. So kind of culminating all of that documentation and regurgitating that into the Opkey platform, aligning that with the base test scripts that, Dimpy was talking about in the test suites that are provided by the accelerator. What I did notice in that journey was this is a very sophisticated UI. It is a very flexible UI. So one of the things is the semantics of the UI did not necessarily align with the process that we defined. Our testing process was different. Our testing process was defined before we had our relationship with Opkey. Our defect management process was designed and defined well before our relationship with Opkey. But Opkey's flexibility, what I noticed was, yes, they have their semantics, but they were able to mold those semantics, move the metadata that we sent them from all of the collateral that we had built into the product, mold the product around the process so that we didn't have to go back and alter the process too much because we had already got quite a bit of buy-in, training, communication built around these processes. So I think that was a key benefit personally to me from an implementation standpoint on onboarding Opkey into the organization, where maybe I didn't have to do too much of an effort in, bringing the 2 pieces together. That's number 1, I would say. The second piece is the fact that it's a shared test bank. And I can't emphasize how crucial that is, right? So now, and we are in the process of doing this. So we haven't really gotten there, but we have a clear idea of where we want to get to. And I think Opkey is a key conduit for us to get us there, right? So currently all of our test scenarios and test scripts are being maintained and versioned within SharePoint. Our eventual goal is to, as now we are transitioning one module at a time, but eventually all of these modules within HCM, be it core HR, absence management, benefits, talent management, learning, so on and so forth, all of these modules will manifest themselves within Opkey, and the eventual goal is they become the central repository document of record for all of our test scripts, and they are automatically baselined with Oracle's quarterly releases. So any modifications now, instead of doing them in SharePoint and documents using document management system, we are hoping to train our folks to eventually transition to using something that's online, agnostic of any current methodology that we're using. So that in itself is a little bit of a transformation, but I just wanted to contextualize our journey within the frame of how we're utilizing this for the implementation. So we're going from PP3A to PP3B, and for PP3B, most of our regression testing for about 6 modules is going to be run through Opkey, and for the modules that we have never done any manual testing on, our portfolio of testing is going to be manually done on the application. So the good thing is the direct consequence of doing this was we went from an 8-week test cycle to a 4-week test cycle. So which means we bought back 4 weeks in terms of testing time. So that is kind of, comes down to brass tacks in terms of reducing the pressure on the project plan and giving us those 4 weeks to do something else, right? Focus on OCM activities, focus on other critical activities that generally get left by the wayside because, obviously you want to get this right. So we're able to do both now with equal efficiency. And with that, I'll turn it back to you, Dimpy, if you want to elaborate on something.
No, 100%. I think this was well said here. And I think the prospects and the customers who have joined us today, right? For them, it is essential to understand that there are multiple pieces on the product that we help at at different stages to our customers with. So if you're currently implementing, you can think of during the implementation, how can you reduce the functional testing time, because it is significant. While you're implementing, it is significant. In fact, I would say more than when you go live, because this is the time when you need that time, and when you want to look at your implementations and your business processes and just bake that into the setup and console as much as possible, as deeply as possible. So at this point, this recurring tests and functional tests and validation and assurance is very, very critical. And outside of that, as soon as you move through the cycles, obviously, other than the pre-packaged accelerators and different solutions that we offer, there is one thing that sits at the center of it, is you can have a platform that can take care of everything. Whether it is storing the test assets, whether it is taking care of the test automation, whether it is linking it cross-module, whether it is doing the integrations like vis-a-vis like the APIs or the databases or multiple third-party applications that are connected with. For all of that, you can just rely on one platform and not go or procure multiple other things. So I think that's the intent, and that's the intent that we entered into the business transformation programs, and with the intent with our business organizations, and where we wanted to provide the value was we wanted to take care of all the applications end to end, and not just focus on something that only takes care of an area and then you have to worry about multiple other things. Opkey comes with the test mining platform. I know that's like our crown jewel, where we understand how you connect with your Oracle instance. How do we configure and assess the logs that are already going on in the system? How do we assess what are the configurations that are running in the system? What are the data that you're using currently in the system to construct and modify the test scripts, the base test scripts that we already come with? That's the as is version. Then we obviously stress upon QLM just to have all the test assets as part of our test management platform. That also provides a good length and leeway of the test documentation that is required by the major organizations such as Rochester, right? They thrive on the compliance, and this is something that they cannot ever do with. The documentation has to be on point. The different screenshots and the different validations across all the different processes that they go through with, they need to have that traceability across different cycles and kept that as part of their bank. So that becomes very critical to them. And then once you have set up these test suites, another thing that becomes very, very important is how do we maintain? And that's on us. And that's on us to take care of when it comes to our customers, that once we have derived and created these test suites for them, and this is something that we have done as part of the onboarding process, how do we continuously maintain? Not only we reduce their testing timelines on their go lives and their patch certifications, but we also cut down our timelines and just make sure that the efficiency is like significantly high. So we can provide values on the new Redwood changes are coming in, or we have just integrated with the Gen AI platforms of Oracle and things like that. So in order to provide value of that, we just have to give that time available to both of the partners. With that, I think Vivek, some of the challenges I think we see, right? And we are continuously, I'm not saying most of it is done. I'm just saying that we have just started the journey with Rochester. And at this point, what we really see to tackle is how we can increase the test coverage more and more, so we can de-risk them at different stages of their testing and their implementation. How we can collaborate more and more, how we can provide a better reporting to them more and more, how we can reduce the overheads on their QA teams more and more, and all this with the part of autonomous test data management and the pre-packaged applications and accelerators that we come with. So these are some of the challenges that we are looking to mitigate, and with the solutions that we provide.
Dimpy, if I may, one of the things that I found pretty exciting in that mining piece that you talked about previously, that kind of was, we haven't really leveraged this fully, and I think we need to internally. In the one module that we finished completely doing end to end, what we realized was when the functional teams are working with the Oracle functional leads in configuring the system, testing the design, validating the design, and actually doing the testing, yes, they follow the test scenarios and they follow the test scripts, but they're also doing other stuff, right? Other nuanced tests that they may not necessarily be going by the book, that they find valuable in the moment. Now, capturing that on a piece of paper and internalizing that back into a valuable test script. I don't know how much we left on the table there, right? As a testing, as a delivery team, and helping with the implementation as a program leader, there was a lot of stuff that we couldn't. There was just a deluge of information there. What we realized with the mining tool is it's actually picking up. It's not just looking at our scenarios, right? It's also looking at the transactional log to reconstruct some scenarios that we would have otherwise missed. Now, of course, all of these scenarios are not useful. They need to be reviewed and looked at. But it's an opportunity for us, which we would have never had, to look at these scenarios and say, hey, this really makes sense. For the business to look at and say, this makes sense. I don't know what. Yeah, we did it, but we really didn't think to make sure we added it to the package, right? So that benefit of feedback through the transactional log, I think we did not appreciate early on during the sales cycle, and we're starting to appreciate that a little bit and hoping to leverage much more in the near future.
Yeah, 100%. And we are hoping to leverage that for Rochester more and more. With that, folks, at this point, I just take a pause here. Any questions that you guys have, you can put as part of the Q&A section and your chat section, and we'll come back to them as soon as we finish the demo. We've already gone through this, but some of these challenges are definitely getting resolved more and more as part of the implementation cycle. And we just want to make sure that we take care of all of these, everything that is required from a testing perspective. We take care of that as part of the test automation platform. With that, folks, please keep putting your questions, and I'll take you to the live platform so you can see the platform running and you can just connect with what we were talking about. Before we go into anything, I want to tell you how and the intent of building the entire platform came about, and why have we started with this particular solution that sits at the center of this implementation and post go live. This is where we start. We call it test discovery, and I'm going to create a snapshot for you. But the idea from the test automation platform and the organization perspective is to change the way testing was being done traditionally. And this is exactly what we're trying to do. Earlier, if you've learned, process mining was generally leveraged for process optimization, to see where the gaps are, to see how the quantity, the different suppliers, the different supplies that is happening across the industry, if that is happening in the right direction, if the different processes, the lags that are happening at different directions, how can you mitigate that? We, as a platform, leverage process mining to lean towards testing, to just put the overall attention into how can I leverage a business process and then understand what are the different gaps and where I can put value in order to validate if the business assurance is intact across different applications. We're doing it across different modules at this point, but we'll be soon coming up with an integrated cross-application test discovery as well. But with that, we call it discovery snapshot. This is the first step where we go vertically into the landscape. We have all the different processes here across the ERP, supply chain, procurement, HCM, where we can pick. I can pick any process here. I can pick anything from my vertical landscape and then give it a duration. The duration to understand the logs, how my business consultants are using the application as is right now. What it'll go and do is, I'll open something which is pre-created. It is going to create an entire outlook, an entire path of how the process is running right now. This is an Oracle payables process, and how it is running right now, it's immediately captured. And then we will connect and convert them into testing scenarios. More like an Uber trip, right? How you would go from a point A to B to C to D. Everything is captured across this particular process during that particular duration, the duration that we initially specified. Then it also mines and understands the configurations that are done in the system. For example, the entire process is mined, and if you see the scenario at the left are the unique variants. This is process 1, this is 2, this is 3. All of these different paths are being taken by the business consultants. These are them. These are not us. These are not the scenarios that we are proposing. We are looking at the instance and then telling you the as-is process that is working right now with the transaction data that the consultants would be using. The initial intent is to make sure that the businesses are not engrossed into day-to-day discussions, plannings, their support. How are you running these processes? That takes months of effort from their side, and then to start working on the test automation build. Then, if you see the configurations that get mined, we make sure that all the setups that have been done in the system is mined, so we can come up with the most relevant amount of test data combinations along with the DFFs. If there is something which is used, which is very, very specific to your instance, all of that gets captured, and then we convert them into test data combinations. These are the relevant test data combinations that the user can start working with. No hustle of businesses creating these data combinations manually and then giving it to the automation suite, and then they're entering the test data into the test scripts. All of that is not required. Plus, making sure that how does it categorize into different categories. That's very, very important. How do I make sure that based on what are my tests being run, most amount of tests which are prioritized, how does that go into a sanity twist, or what becomes a standard suite, or what becomes my reporting test suite, what comes into my integration? Everything which is part of the testing that is happening and my business processes is part of that gets categorized automatically. So the test suites get developed automatically. So you can then directly trace them with the test scripts that you already have, the scenarios that you have, if you have, and then you can come up with the most relevant test bed, which continuously get updated based on the different patches and the releases that comes from Oracle. Not only that, we look at the configurations that we mine here, and then come up with the suggestions. We see that these are the tests that you have done so far, but these are the X number of test scripts that you have not done, which could be part of some of the suggestions that we would like you to increase your coverage with. These are the suggested test cases that come based on these configurations dynamically. And then one of the biggest problems, right? Who looks for the data? So we saw that how do we manage and maintain this test data, and then who enters the data as part of the test scripts. Again, it becomes very critical, because when we automate here, all of these tests become part of the automated test suite. So when I hit automate, this test scenario is going to get converted into an automated test script, which will have the test data set and the test data sheets created automatically. Once this test report is completed, this test results get converted into test automation script right here, and it generates a test data sheet already, which has the test data set that you would be leveraging it with. In short,
sorry, Dimpy, do you mind if I interject a quick question?
Please.
So we have someone asking, it sounds as if this is more helpful in a fresh implementation versus HCM, which is already implemented. Or can we say this would also be beneficial for quarterly updates as well for already implemented systems?
Quarterly updates is one of the biggest use cases that we serve with. And I'll tell you how it is more beneficial. I wouldn't say where it is more beneficial to you, right? This is beneficial for, according to me, at both the phases. At the time of implementation and post-implementation. Post-implementation, if you are already running with some of these tests, it is immediately going to mine what is already there, both for ERP and HCM. So it's absolutely similar for both. I just picked up one of the examples in the interest of time. But so what is already going on, how your business consultants are currently working, it's going to mine that. It is going to mine the configuration. So it's pretty much easy, because there are no configurations that are continuously changing, right? You're creating a snapshot, you're converting it into a test suite, and it is ready post go live. Now, at the time of implementation, you can assume the mine test scenarios coming less, because at this point, people are less actually creating these business processes, but they're working on the configurations and the implementations more and more at this point. So the suggested test cases become more and more, which means that the base library becomes more and more relevant. And that is exactly what we did with Rochester and are doing with Rochester. So we are currently in the phase of implementing it, or what we are doing is we are mapping our suggested and base library with the test scenarios that they already have in order to trace. But we are using our own library, our own base library, and we are generating this test data like I showed you. And then that test data goes into the test scripts, and that's how we execute. So to answer your question, it is very, very relevant for both these use cases. And in fact, it's a very valid question while Rochester program leader is with us is because they are actually leveraging Opkey for both of these use cases, right? First use case is while implementation, and post implementation also Opkey is going to be all the more relevant.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's we just wanted to give a glimpse of our platform before we went into questions, answers, and stuff like that. So we are actually open to questions, more questions now.
All right. We have a question that would perhaps Vivek wants to take it, or you both can comment. Can you speak a little about the onboarding process? It seems intimidating for my organization to go from not using automation at all to fully onboarding an AI-based platform.
Yes,
So I guess
it is.
how long would it take?
Yeah, so it's the same thing, and we are actually probably on the QLM side, on the manual testing side, we went through complete onboarding journey. On the automation side, we are in the process of that onboarding journey. The tool itself is pretty intuitive. Now they do provide some training. There is a lot of documentation, and the good thing about Opkey's team that we've seen so far is that they are available. No amount of boilerplate training, we all know whoever has implemented products, no amount of boilerplate training is going to do anyone any good, right? It's how do they tailor that documentation to us? How do they tailor the commentary around the product to our specific needs? And I think that's where the team that has been allocated, really comes through for us, or came through for us on the QLM side, right? From a user adoption side, most of our challenges, what we had to do was we did build a process for building some sort of guidance, very simple guidance in terms of whether it was PowerPoint presentations or and whether it was turning people. So we basically used a train the trainer model. So we picked champions within each of these particular groups, identified those people who were excited about automated testing, gave them kind of a crash course in Opkey through their training training opportunities available. Plus, they have Opkey University for self-paced training, and plus their tool itself, the Opkey onboarding team and the technical team supporting our implementation were gracious enough to set up several demo projects that we could allocate to different users, that they could basically take whatever boilerplate training that they had and then use those demo projects as a playground to kind of start to interact with the tool. Our user adoption rates, as with any new product like this, was variable. So some people kind of gravitated to it like, a fish to water. Some people were a little hesitant, reticent to change, and they required a little bit of a push. But all in all, I think the tool is pretty intuitive, quite sophisticated. So in certain cases, we had to straitjacket people through a particular methodology we wanted them to follow, because the tool can support 3 or 4 ways of doing the exact same thing. So we had to, try to pick what was best for our organization with our level of maturity within the organization. So we did some adjustments there. But I think just having a good a project manager and a project manager setup with 1 or 2 BAs should generally do the trick to be able to support something like this in terms of onboarding.
Yeah. And also one-time implementation we generally take care of, which means that we'll help you with making sure that the first time all the test suites are up and running for you. Until that time, the entire team is going to be with you. Plus, we are right from kickoff to the onboarding, and like Vivek said, the training sessions are going to be continuous to make sure that different teams are enabled. And plus, we are going to do a handover at the end of these test suites creation as well, so that the teams exactly know once these test suites are up and running for them, then they connect. We just make sure that their connect is going to happen more and more. So I hope that answers your question.
Awesome. Thank you both. I know it's very valuable to hear from the customer side as well. We have another question. What technology stack has Opkey used to develop this platform?
It's a mix microservices-based structure, but .NET and Java at the core.
Yep, and an extension of that, not what we're developed on, but who we work with. We are certified Oracle partner, certified Workday partner, certified Coupa partner, and we also provide solutions for Salesforce, Viva, and several other options. So we know in today's environment, a lot of Oracle Cloud environments are heavily integrated with other providers. So that is something we're aware of and built out for.
100%.
And